Judy Belushi-Pisano. Yay!
Well, I'm a fast-talking, fast-walking Midwest kid. Never thought I'd grow up, but I'm glad I finally did. I done good in school, I learned to be cool, and it served me well. I married a rebel, I fought with the devil, and I lived to tell. These are the best days. These are the best days of my life. These are the best days. These are the best days of my life. You know, there was a time I thought I'd be a virgin all my life. Never thought I would make a wife. When it came round to adultery, never thought that I was sultry. But you know the best one, kiddo. Never thought I'd be a young widow. You cut the deck, you get what you get. You play your best game and you never forget that. These are the best days. These are the best days of my life. These are the best days. These are the best days of my life. Well, hello, green eyes. You were my best surprise. Now you and your sisters stand by my side. Times may get rough, but we get tougher. We're not the kind to sit and suffer. I got your backs, and that's the facts, because I am your motherfucking mother. These are the best days. These are the best days of my life. These are the best days. These are the best days of my life. Got some sad news. I lost my good friend today. We had so much more to say now. All we shared is in the past. No, that's not really true. And I can prove it to you, 'cause in my heart our love will last forever. These are the best days. These are the best days of my life. These are the best days. These are the best days of my life. Oh, I got money in the bank, I got gas in my tank, and I'm driving an electric car. I'm hitting the road, I'm lightening my load. I'm just gonna bring along this little acoustic guitar. These are the best days of my life. These are the best days of my life. These are the best days of my life. No transition is easy at this stage.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. Hello, test.
Yep.
Okay. Hello, thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you.
And thank you, Richard.
Yeah. Thank you for that special moment. Who would have known you have a third act? Singing and songwriting.
Yeah, well,
Let's-
a third of it. I got a lot of acts to go to.
That's right. 72 young.
That's right. I'm working on my first album, 72 years in the making.
That's fantastic. Can everyone hear, Judy?
Yes.
Okay. You might want to raise the white
Yellow
mic.
mic.
White mic. Now you're on white.
I'm giving,
We're going to get you on every single mic in the room tonight.
That's right.
No, this is great to have you back.
Thank you.
You might not remember that 10
I
years
do.
ago, you do,
Yes.
yes. Can we hear
Gail Moon
from
was sitting right over there.
same
And she
spot?
said, well, you love that spot.
Same spot. But we did another movie, on the edge.
Dancing on the Edge.
Dancing on the Edge, and that was, of course, about John. But this movie feels totally different.
Well, it is.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a real movie, Ron.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
The other is a TV made for movie. And
right,
the reasons behind them are very different.
right. So maybe you can tell us, why was it so important to do this project? I know you've been working on it for many years,
Yeah.
and the final
72 years. Well, over the years, there have been a number of television documentaries on John. And the one, Dancing on the Edge, was, I think, the best of those. And I helped those producers toward the end. Most of the time when people were doing those documentaries, they were hands-off with me, as they are with most people involved with somebody they're doing a documentary on. Because frankly, they just think you're going to give your opinion, and which of course you do, but they don't think you'll have much balance. They're not really interested in it. And at the end of, when they showed me Dancing on the Edge, they said, what do you think? I said, yeah. And they said, what would you do differently? Could you give us notes? And I said, well, no, I'm not going to give you notes, because I'll spend 2 days writing notes, and you'll take a couple of hours to read them and, maybe do something. And they said, well, would you come talk to us? I said, okay. And then I thought, well, now I got to walk into a room full of people I said I didn't care for their work and work with them. But I did, and we were able to do some things that helped. One was they didn't have enough footage because they didn't have the budget, and I was able to get them some more footage, and also just sort of direct them in some places where I thought they were just wrong, and they made their choices on what they agreed with. And so it was a decent documentary. When this came along, a filmmaker named John Belushi has a company called Passion Films, and he is very passionate. One of the films he did that you might know was Finding Sugarman, Searching for Sugarman. But he called me every year for about 5 years, asking if I would do a documentary. And I began to feel sorry for him. So I agreed to meet with him, but I really didn't want to do it because it takes a lot of time and energy, and like I've said before, in general, they don't listen to you. So it's sort of like, and so I met with him, and he had these little red tennis shoes on, and he was pretty young and chipper, and he was very passionate. He loved John, and he loves films, and he just wanted to make it. He agreed there hadn't been a good documentary, and he wanted to have his chance. And I said, well, I didn't want to do it. I met with him not wanting to do it, and I remained not wanting to do it. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you talk to my brother-in-law? We'll see what he thinks. My brother-in-law, Jim Belushi. So Jimmy said, well, do you want to do it? And I said, well, not really. So they had a meeting. I didn't hear from John for another year. Jimmy was very rough on him. But he came back, and I was in a different mindset, and I began to respect him for one thing, with his perseverance, certainly. And he suggested he would use R.J. Cutler for the director. And I was not familiar with R.J., but I looked him up. He did a lot of political stuff. One was called The War Room, and I had seen that long ago, and I thought very good. And then he'd also done some music documentaries, and they were pretty out there music choices. I thought, well, this is interesting, because one of the things I think people missed in their understanding of John was that he was really had depth, and he was actually very politically minded, and he loved history, and he understood politics very well. And was most of his earlier career, he did the kind of work he did was very social and political, and so I got involved with him for those reasons. They were very respectful. They of course said right off, as everyone does, it's not my film, not mine. They're going to do what they do, but they wanted my input, and they wanted to get an understanding of how I saw things. And I think they went. I also was able to get them some interviews they wouldn't have been able to get, and so they had access to the right people, and they listened, and you saw what they put together. And I think it's a good, I feel like one of the things I had hoped would happen is that you might feel like you spent some time with John, that you had a better understanding of him as a person. And I think they did do that. I would have said I would have liked to, I felt, they can't avoid the heaviness of it, the sadness. And I wouldn't say it's not there, but I would say it's about balance. John was a pretty happy guy, and it was more of the up than the down, and more of the happy than the dramatic. And it's not a terribly off balance in the film, but I would have liked to see more laughs.
Right. So you worked. It sounds like you worked with. Was it R.J.?
Yeah.
Yeah, R.J. Cutler. You worked with him for a bit.
We spoke a lot. They came to the house.
Right.
I went through photo albums with them. I went through, whatever they wanted to talk about.
Right.
You can see, I'm willing to talk.
Right.
And I, express my opinion, and I understand other people's opinions, and I feel I can even. I of course feel I can understand everyone. And I do. I feel like I can see the other people's opinions, and so I think that helped. All that helped get a pretty balanced documentary.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I got out of it also is I got to know you a little bit more, because the tagline is "Everyone loved John, but few knew him." But few have not known you as his partner for those 15 years. And
most of the documentaries mention he was married. Most of them. And, every once in a while I get a little something in there, but, that's pretty much it. And that was a big lack if you're trying to tell someone's life when he was, we were together.
Well, the use of the letters
15 years.
is very poignant. Your letter writing between
Yes.
the two of you.
And I had shared that with others.
Yeah.
They didn't see the value.
Right.
RJ did, clearly. It told a lot. And, and they learned a lot from it, even though they didn't share them all, obviously. But they learned a lot from that.
Exactly. And then the use of animation, I think,
That was
creative.
interesting. Yeah, I liked it a lot, actually.
Right. Sort of the young, it sounded funny how they always kind of went back to more of a youthful, young
Well, that's what there's
boy.
nothing of him.
Yeah.
That
The animation.
that story
Yeah.
trope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I think this is the kind of stuff I get nitpicky on. The restaurant his father had was not a drive-in. That looked like a drive-in. It looked like a little cafe. They wanted it to be the restaurant from Saturday Night Live.
Right,
Cheeseburger, but it wasn't. He had actually a nice restaurant that served the best steaks in town. But they'd already done the animation by the time I saw it, so they weren't going to change it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I remember that this film came out right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. We had a terrific opening night planned in New York City in Tribeca, a 1,000-seat theater with, a star-studded audience, and that would have helped people know about the film. And then COVID hit and canceled. And then there was never a theatrical release. And so it kind of got lost a little bit, I think. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to take the opportunity to talk to folk here on the island and who are interested. And because I know so often people, what happened to that, documentary? It's like, oh yeah, it's out. You missed it. No, it's still online. I mean, it is still available online. I believe it's on Prime, and I meant to look, but I didn't. So spread the word.
People can Google it. Tell your friends to Google it.
Tell them. Call them now. I'm waiting until you call.
So maybe we have some questions from the audience. Anyone have a burning question?
You were promised answers. I'm here.
For Judy?
Bring it to me.
Yes.
I have one. Hi.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you.
Thank you. My question would be, is there something small about John that
Nothing.
no one would ever know? A favorite food, a favorite thing that you cooked for him, a favorite spice.
My God, this is what, 40 years ago? He liked everything I cooked. He was a voracious eater, you might imagine. Well, I think the fact that he was a reader, well read. I mean, we would read before bed and those kind of things that one wouldn't imagine. And he was very knowledgeable in history. I've already sort of thrown that out there, but those come to mind. We like to do, earlier days, we would like to gather at somebody's house and sing songs with our friends. We were fortunate to have a friend named Paul Schaefer who could play anything that you wanted to sing, even if he didn't know it. If you gave him a little bit, he could play it. And our friends would gather, Gilda Radner and then many others you wouldn't know. And that was something we really enjoyed. And we also had a phase where we went bowling. We had our bowling days. We didn't go so far as to get shirts or shoes. But we thought about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others?
Oh,
Yep, way up there. Wait for the microphone for a second.
That's why she's running.
What did Jim Belushi think of the documentary?
He liked it. He was one of the first to see it, and he was pleased.
I wonder why he wasn't in there a little bit more.
Well, the adult life didn't overlap all that much. I mean, Jimmy's 5 years younger, and there were, we used to go see him in plays at school, and when he got in Second City, of course, we saw him, and he did a couple shows in Chicago. In fact, he had just opened a Joe Papp show. I can't remember what it was. No, not Joe Papp, that's New York. Something in Chicago that he opened, and John flew out to be there for the opening, and there were a couple empty seats in the audience, and John would go sit in the empty seat and laugh and applaud, and then he'd move and he'd go to another end, sit there and laugh and applaud. And so, it was they hadn't had time to really strengthen their adult relationship when John died. And so going back and doing, look at who they're talking to, mostly talking to the people that John worked with. And that was their, Jim was in because his family, and they used him for that part of the storytelling. I think they would have worked together. I saw something in the future, and that's too bad they didn't have that moment.
Judy, maybe you can just add a little bit about what Martha's Vineyard represented to both of you. Why it was
Peace.
such a special place.
I'll tell you the story of how we found Martha's Vineyard. We moved from Chicago to New York to do a show called Lemmings, an off-Broadway show with the National Lampoon. And then from that, the Lampoon started a radio hour, and I was working on the radio hour. And when Lemmings ended, John ended up working on the radio hour also. So we actually worked together briefly. And we had a vacation. This is the only time we ever had a vacation. Like a real vacation. You don't come to work anymore for 2 weeks. Oh. And we decided to tour New England because we were new. And I got a guidebook and mapped it out. So we had a couple of places we were going to stay. And then we had a couple nights we didn't know where we'd go. And on the way back, we stopped at a friend in Boston's. And he said, did you go to Martha's Vineyard? What's that? I grabbed my travel book and I'm looking. And I found this little paragraph on the bottom left-hand side of a page. And it said, Martha's Vineyard Island, 7 miles off the coast of, and that's about it. And he said, yeah, Carly Simon and James Taylor go out there. I said, well, we should go see it. We've got enough, it's an island, and famous people we like, go there. So we drove up and said, we want to go to Martha's Vineyard. They said, you taking your car? We said, yep. And they said, you have a reservation? And we said, no. They said, then you're not taking your car. So that was a big, well, what do we do? Oh, you won't need a car over there. So we come over here, we get out of the vineyard and go, well, of course we need a car here. What are they thinking? And again, our budget's tight. We're toward the end of the trip, And we decided we had to rent a car. We just started driving. And I know from being out here now, we ended up driving up along the state forest. We just drove, and ended up in Chilmark. And made a little ride at the crossing there, and there were a couple little signs for bed and breakfast and Menachie, and so we thought, let's try this. And they had these tiny little cabins at the time. with like two twin beds and a toaster oven and chair, a little porch, and it was just really sweet. And so we stayed there for a couple nights. And then at the beach, we went down to that beach, and we wondered if there was another beach we could go to. Like, could we ride our bikes somewhere? And they said, well, why don't you go to Chilmark Beach? So we said, okay, got the bikes, rode over, walked out the path, took a look to the left. This was June, so it wasn't terribly crowded. But there were people here, and we looked to the right. There was no one over there, so we turned to the right, and we walked up the beach and found a place, and we sat up, and it was really wonderful. We had a beautiful afternoon. And John said, you know, someday I want to own this beach. And I said, well, that would be lovely, but I don't think we can buy a state beach or town beach. And I had been watching this fellow walk from way down the beach toward us, and I thought it was interesting because he had big boots on and a long-billed cap. I'd never really seen anyone walk on the beach in boots. And he walked right up to us and he said, excuse me, you're going to have to move. This is a private beach. And of course we said, well, sorry, and we moved. Well, I don't know, 7 years later, we bought that beach. I'd like to just make
Judy?
Yes?
This is a little nudge from your
That's
sister.
my sister.
Why don't you tell them from whom?
Sit up straight.
Why don't you tell them from whom you bought the beach place and how John felt about that?
Well, a friend came to us and said, Robert McNamara is selling this property. It's on the beach. We didn't actually even know where it was. So we bought it, and then the next day there was a thing in the paper, John Belushi buys Robert McNamara, and he put it up on the market for one day. And then we took it off, and we loved it. It was our home. I was just going to comment about my voice. I have a paralyzed vocal cord, which I got about a year ago. We don't know why. And so that's the issue with my throat.
Yeah, here.
That's handy. You could have phoned.
Hi. Judy and I are neighbors in Vineyard Haven. So I thought the movie was great. And, you know, I just, without belaboring my usual health-related subject, I think these guys are exhausted. And I think, you know, I had some insight into Michael Jackson as well. They work so hard that they need to do drugs to basically
They don't
keep
need
alive.
to, but it is a choice
I mean,
they made.
they gravitate towards it.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm into fixing people's deficiencies, and it's
Yeah,
so
they
sad.
self-medicate.
Yeah, so they medicate, and I'm just advocating for people who have trouble to fix what's wrong, hormones, neurotransmitters, and take a vacation more often so they can survive the career. They become so famous,
You
so
get good ideas on vacation.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share a little story right here
Where are you?
behind the camera.
Oh, thank you. God, is that you?
So in 1981, you might remember this, John was walking by the courthouse in Edgartown, and there was a graduating class of police officers in the courtroom. They were graduating from the police academy, and somebody saw him on the street and invited him to come in and speak to them, and he did. And I was working in the court, and I could hear the laughter, but I wish I'd have gone upstairs to share that with them. But it was
Just
just
remember that, but I wasn't there, so.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. But I wish I was.
very impromptu, and
That
yeah, I'll
sounds
never
good.
forget
He was,
that.
you know, a great guy. He was pretty friendly in general. You could get him in a bad mood, but in general, he was pretty responsive to people.
And I just wanted to say thank you for the depiction of his struggles with cocaine and with heroin, and it was a very intimate portrayal of that struggle.
Yeah.
Very
It's important to, I feel.
If
When he
you
died, it
have-
was taboo, and it was sort of like bad person, and sort of like the line was drawn. And I'm happy that that is not the case today, and I've spoken out on it through the years, and hope I've helped make that change. Thank you.
I think that even the film will do that. But I kept thinking about, we have such of the fact of the effect of the isolation that he had. And now we have such a close-knit recovery community here on the island. And just
Yeah, I was just starting
that
then.
could have been there for him.
We were friends with James Taylor, and he actually, after John died, he really kicked into that program and was very helpful to me as well.
Thank you.
Other questions? Oh, yeah, right.
Hi, thanks for being here tonight, Judy. It's really wonderful to give some context to the story and to the film. One of the things that I was really happy to see was the Blues Brothers film that was included. Because if I always thought that was just such an extraordinary film. And even now, the cast, the performances, it was such an epic movie. And I wasn't sure how involved you were and what you could say about just how they were able to get so many incredible performances, performers, even some of the crash sequences and everything. It just really seemed to be extraordinary for its time.
And it was, and when I think back, I'm so happy that I was involved with something like that. I mean, it started with John and Dan just, playing off each other and becoming these characters. And they both loved music so much that they wanted to form a band. And just little things like the Bluesmobile. They were working on the script. John did not write the script, but he did spend a lot of time with Dan, with ideas and whatnot. They were sitting in the living room, and I was just finishing up a book I did for Animal House. That was just coming out. I was putting away my photos, and they're talking, and I have pulled out, I was looking at the photo of what was in the movie. It was called The Deathmobile in the Animal House. And the phone rang, and it was this garage. We had bought this big old stupid car that Danny talked us into getting, and had it painted black. And so they said, your car's ready. I said, oh, thank you. And I hung up. I said, I got to go pick up the Bluesmobile. And they sort of just came out, and they both went, the Bluesmobile. And, things just developed like that, mostly them. But that's just one I remember, because I had been involved. But, and then all of a sudden, John got up and sang at a club one night when Lorne Michaels was there, and he said, you should warm up the audience. It's SNL one night. So he did that, and then that was such a stage. He got Danny to do it with him. And I went out with a friend, and we bought them big baggy blue black suits, the skinny tie. I got my father was a skinny tie fan for years. We had to wrestle them from him at one point, but he insisted we keep them because he knew they'd be coming back. And so I called my mom and said, will you send me some of those ties? And, they got hats, and they opened the audience, and it was such a success that they wanted them to perform on the show. And this is actually one of those things that no one would or should think about. But John said, we don't want to do it on the show, because if it's a skit on the show, it belongs to the show. And we want to do this. So Lauren said, well, how about if we hire you as the musical guest? So they went on as the musical guest. Next thing we knew, someone wanted to make an album. They saw, let's make an album. It's like, we've got a barn, come on, we can do it. So an album, and then from the album someone wanted to do a movie. No, actually, John and Dan were thinking about the movie. They told their manager, he put Danny on the phone with an executive a vice president at Universal. Danny told him the story idea. He said, sounds like a movie to me. And then there was a film. It's sort of just roller coasted into it.
Right. Then came House of Blues also.
Well, that's years later. Danny and I were involved with that. But it's definitely a spin-off, and the club in New Orleans has, above the bar, it says this joint is dedicated to Jake Blues. And every club has, well, I believe they all have this plaster of Paris blues artists. So, and they've got the Blues Brothers up there. So there's a little controversy over them, but they are a real band, and they had a real impact. And I'm happy to say we're working on a documentary on that now. Again, 20 years or so. So, no, it'll be all within 20 years, I guarantee you. Yeah, a few more.
Okay, one or two more questions. Okay.
I don't know.
Who Who has a mic?
I do.
Okay.
Give it to
Go
somebody.
ahead and ask your question.
Judy, thanks so much. One little question. I'm curious about the choreography of Dan Aykroyd's dance when he does the Blues Brothers, because it doesn't really look like a dance. It looks like somebody wound up a Frankenstein real hard, and he just sort of, I wonder if there was some choreography behind that, or if it just sort of happened.
They just sort of did their dance, because from the time they first did it in opening for the show, they were doing these bizarre dances. For the film, there was a choreographer, and his genius was to see what they did, and then extend it to fit for a film.
John was a good dancer, wasn't he?
Yes, John was a great dancer.
I want to say thank you, first of all, Judy, for being here, and Richard for showing this film on the big screen, because I would have liked to have been at the opening, but I watched it on opening night on Showtime.
Oh,
And
I don't.
I
Of course you would.
I
You
was,
wouldn't have missed it.
I wouldn't have missed
No, I
it.
found you. I couldn't find you.
I was so fortunate to my life be born when I was, even though it was a little too late to have known John. But I feel like I've been able to know him through his work and you and Danny and House of Blues, etc. But when Saturday Night Live started, I was 9 or 10, and it was just, there was nothing like that for most people, but especially a 9 or 10-year-old. And I was privy, I was glued to that television. To this day, Saturday night is a sacred night to stay in. And it just, I followed through, and John's influence on myself, but on so many people, it's just remarkable. And it's just a testament to that talent, that energy. You didn't have to really know him. I'm jealous you did. And I'm sure that was part of you. But that it just resonates to this day.
It resonated with me too, and I want to tell the audience this is Jill Blues. I met Jill, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago.
20s,
quite
30.
young. She came up and presented me with a scrapbook of Blues Brothers. She's been a fan a long time, and I've met so many people through the energy of the Blues Brothers that it's really quite extraordinary.
Just thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one last question. What's that?
I have a question.
Okay.
And she's got a weapon.
Okay. You'll be the last question. Why don't you go ahead?
I just wanted to say thank you as well, and you made a small mention too. I'm right here. Thank you for coming out and sharing the story tonight. It was really wonderful.
Thank you for coming out on this cold and blustery night.
Well, it was well worth it. But you made small mention of, and I think that the documentary makes a large, not necessarily balances, but the ghost that he had following him, or the devil that he had following him, of addiction and depression. And I don't think it's the irony of the documentary coming out during COVID, a time of isolation, doesn't escape me. And
thanks for pointing it out.
And well, but I wanted to ask you, because I think we can all feel John's presence here, thanks to you. And I wanted to ask you, we just recently changed the name of mental illness to mental health issues, which I think was huge.
That's right.
And I wanted to ask you, and John, you were here today, and I'm sure he's with you all the time by your movie.
I believe so.
I think you kept him alive, and his friends kept him alive, and his humor was a tool for him to express a lot of pain. So if he were here tonight, and you're here tonight, and knowing the state of affairs of, kids 8, 10, having still the drug problem that we do, and also the suicide rates, what maybe would you like to see, or could you advise the people in this room that we've all been affected probably by either a friend or a family member or someone that we love? Thank you.
I wish I had an answer. I don't like, but I believe love is the answer.
She's the only girl who's so good inside the killer bee. She's the only girl who saw the good inside the killer bee. She stood by Joliet J and she never charged a fee.